My name is Daniel Reach. This is Branded Bison, and today we're going to be talking about the 6 tools that I recommend you buy first if you're looking to get into leather tooling. Now, one of the tools that I'm going to show you today is actually going to act as a set of training wheels. And what I mean by that is in the beginning, when you're new, sometimes it's hard to make the tools do what you want them to do so you can get the results that you're looking for, right? Well, this tool that I'm going to show you is going to act as a set of, like I said, training wheels to help get you the results you're looking for until you can learn to use the other tools correctly. Let's go ahead and jump in. So the first tool that I'm going to recommend to you today, if you're going to get into tooling, you have no choice. You have to learn how to use a swivel knife. Now, there are some out there that are a little bit more advanced than this, but in the beginning, something simple like this. This is a very entry-level beginner swivel blade. It functions really nicely. There's lots of videos out there on how to use them, so we're not going to get into that today. But this tool runs you about 30 bucks. We'll have a link in the description so you can go get it off of Amazon. So today we're going to be tooling this very simple set of leaves. The idea is not to do anything elaborate, just to show you a little bit of what you can accomplish with a very simple set of tools. Let's go ahead and slide this out of the way. The next tool that we're going to be talking about is a simple traditional beveler. And as you can see right here, it's got a little bit of a slanted edge. It's a pretty gentle slope to it. It's got a little bit of a wide head on it, and it's got a checkered face. This is what we're going to use to create the definition around the outside of the pattern. All right, so clearly to use our beveler, we're going to need something to strike it with. And a lot of times you'll see people using something like this. This is a 2-pound maul. This thing is a beast. Swinging this for more than just a few minutes is really going to be physically challenging, which is why I use what I lovingly, jokingly refer to as my baby maul. This is a 12-ounce maul. I think it runs about 10, 12 bucks on Amazon. I'll have a link in the description for you. But this is what I use to create everything that I do in tooling. I can use this for hours and hours on end and I don't get tired. Whereas just a few minutes using this one and I'm exhausted, my forearm's burning. So this is what we're going to be using today. We're going to use this to do all of our beveling just like I would any other day. So we got the leaves cut in. Let's go ahead and start beveling. So on one side here, let's say down this side right here, I'm going to intentionally bevel it poorly. I'm going to put a lot of chatter marks in there. I'm going to make it look more like somebody who's just started, what it might look like if they were doing it. The reason I'm going to do that is I want to show you how to fix those. I've got a tool that I'm going to show you. It's the one that I mentioned that was the kind of the training wheels type tool, and I want to be able to show you how to fix the problems that naturally show up in the beginning when you're learning how to do something like this. That's very typical of what you might see if we're talking about a beginner who's just learning to do it. Maybe they don't have a lot of experience. You see a lot of those lines. I refer to those as chatter marks, but that's very common. You might see that on any beginner project. I'm going to show you how to fix that. Let's go ahead and finish beveling the rest of it. The next thing that we want to use would be a PEAR shader. So I'm going to show you how to use that, and then we're going to get into the ones that you might not have thought of as a beginner tool. So the next one that we're going to use, let me slide that out of the way so you can see it. This is a PEAR shader. What this is used for is for shading. We're going to create shadows with this. It has a checkered face, and it kind of has a domed head on it right here, and that's going to create a bowl or a concave area. And we're going to go through and we're going to add it to the areas where we want shadows. All right, so I added a little water to it just because it was getting a little dry. I didn't put enough on there to begin with, apparently. So one thing I want to show you is I intentionally left kind of a hard edge right here. Now, sometimes you'll see that in beginner tooling and they don't really know how to correct that. This is another area where I'm going to show you how to use the upcoming tool to fix some of that to kind of create the look that you're wanting. So let's jump over to that right now. So the tool that I'm talking about is a modeling tool. Now it can be the smaller, so it's got a pretty small end here and a medium-sized head there. Or we could be talking about something more like this that's got a large and a medium on it. This is going to be the one I'm using today, and this is probably the one I would recommend to you, the one with the large spoon and the medium. But you know, you can also get this one. This is just as effective. It might be a little bit more challenging to use. I'm going to use it to redefine these edges. Sometimes it can be a difficult challenge to get super crisp lines on the edges with a traditional modeling tool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go in and I'm going to start using this to push in around the edges and really accentuate those lines. And as I get into the leaf, I'm going to fade it. You want those edges to taper. Now I want to be clear about something. This is not a way for you to cheat. I'm not telling you do this instead of learning how to use the tool. What I'm telling you is that while you're learning to use the tool, to get rid of some of that frustration that comes with being new, this is a way that you can use, this is a technique that you can use to get rid of some of that frustration, some of those mistakes that beginners make. And when I get into the leaf, I'm using less pressure and I'm lifting as I come out of the line so that we create those tapered lines. We want them to fade into nothing. With the modeling tool like this, we can get in there and we can take that line all the way up to that other leaf so that we make sure it connects the way we want it to. So now that we've done that, we don't want hard lines. We want nice crisp lines against the leaf, but we want soft edges out here in the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the spoon around. We're going to use the flat side of it, and basically we're going to go in and soften that. You can even use the smaller end of it. Sometimes that's a little easier. So we're just going to go in and we're just going to soften that. Sometimes you want a nice steady pull. Sometimes it's better to have softer, quicker movements. You just kind of have to decide in the moment what works best for you. Now you may have noticed a moment ago that we haven't done the part right here with all the chatter in it, and that's because I wanted to wait until we get to the part where we're softening and shading. That's what we're going to use to soften all this up. So the first thing we're going to do is go in and redefine that edge just like we did before. Come in, crisp up that edge. Make sure we've got the definition we're looking for. Right now I'm not worried about all that chatter. All I'm worried about is just getting a nice, clean, crisp edge. So now that we've got that, we're going to do the same thing here that we did over here to soften that up. Now we might have to be a little bit more aggressive with it. You definitely want to be patient, but what we're going to do, for now I'm going to use the more narrow end of it, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to firmly but gently, patiently work those marks out. Sometimes you might want to spin around and get the wider end of it. Ordinarily, this outside back here, we would be matting that and backgrounding it and such. For the purposes of this, we're just going to leave it as a shadowed area like that. But now, after we've done the defining of the edges out here, let's get into the inside here where we did some of that pear shading and see if maybe we can enhance that a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start I'm going to start with these lines right here that we created with the swivel cut and our beveler. I want to create more shadow in there. So I'm going to come in with my modeling tool, and basically I'm going to create a shadow on the downside. Didn't take much pressure. Just be patient with it. Now remember, we talked about there's a little bit of a hard edge right in through here. We can use our modeling tool to soften that up and create a few more flow lines in there. This is all subtle work. You're not looking for anything dramatic here. What we're trying to do is maybe correct some issues that we put in there with the modeling, not with the modeling tool, with the traditional beveler, and add some subtle movement as far as where we want the eye to go with the shadows. Let's go down to the base down here. Maybe we want to create some kind of little definition there where the leaf comes in. All right. Now let's go back in and add some more shadows to the actual petal themselves. Sometimes that pear shader can be challenging for a newbie. And this is just something that you have to play with a little bit. You'll get the feel for it. So practice on something that's not important, something that you don't mind messing up. You don't want to try a new technique on something that's important. So all I'm doing is I'm putting kind of a ridge line in there with the edge of the modeling tool. We're going to come back and work on those a little bit more in just a minute, but for now we're just putting those reference lines in there. Go slow so that you can control the modeling tool. Better to get it right and go slow than to go quick and make mistakes. Okay, so now that we've added those lines in there, now we can use those as references for the shading. And we're going to start light. We're not trying to do anything dramatic here. Shadows are subtle unless there's real hard lighting, and those shadows tend to fade. They don't just end abruptly. So that's what we're going for. Now let's put some on this upper leaf up here. And a nice thing about a modeling tool, you can go in and use it almost like a pencil. That leading edge of the modeling tool will leave a mark in there almost identical to a pencil. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far for a beginner level project. Now let's see what we can do about the veins in the center of it. So you can do this step with a pencil, you can do it with a stylus, whatever you want to do. But what I like to do if I don't have my full set of tools, what I want to do is I want to take a stylus and very gently draw in the lines and the direction of the lines that I might want to put in there. And the reason I do it this way, it gives me an opportunity to change my mind. I do this with my swivel cuts sometimes. If I'm not sure about the way I want something to look, then I'll go in and lightly draw them in this way so that I can decide before I make them permanent whether I like what I'm thinking. Okay, so those are super light lines. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up, but all I've done is I've gone in and I've drawn some lines in there. We don't want those to act as swivel cuts. That would be too deep, like decorative cuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with the pointy end of the modeling spoon, and I'm going to use the tip of it to kind of press that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be light when I start, and I'm going to get heavier as I go. Okay? You can spin it over and use the tip like a pencil. Something like that. Just a touch of shading in there to give it a little bit of depth, and then we'll switch over to the other side. Put that shading back in there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here. Make sure you're putting the shading on the correct side. In this example, the shading needs to be towards the point of the leaf, not the base of the leaf. So I can get it back in camera. Sorry, I'm doing my best to make sure I stay on camera while I do this, but it's hard to watch the monitor and tool at the same time. So forgive me if I get off the camera just a little bit. I'm trying. So you'll notice I'm spinning it. I'll go from the point, then I'll spin it, I'll go to the back of the spoon. And I'll spin it and I'll go to the point. And then I go to the back of the spoon. Okay? So that gives us a little bit more depth in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the spoon to bevel the edges of these. So we don't want any hard lines. Make sure you're tapering the end of your shading. No hard lines, something like that. Now this one we're going to shade each side of the line. So we're going to leave the stem in the middle, and the two cuts are each going to get shaded. Go slow. We don't need a lot of pressure all at once. You can always add more pressure, more shading, but it's hard to back it off. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so that's what we've got. Now I want to add a little bit of contour along the stem, and I'm going to use my modeling tool for that. I'm going to use the rounded end, not the pointy end. So I'm just going real light, and I'm just kind of, where do I want the leaf to look like it rolls? How do I want the eye to pull as it goes through there? And these are almost veins, but they're shadows within the leaf. They don't have to be long. They don't have to be really wide. You just want something to guide the eye of the person that's looking at it. These are called flow lines. With some very, very basic tools and a little bit of know-how. Oh, we forgot one. There's one more tool that we forgot. That's going to be your small matting tool or backgrounding tool. As you can see, let's compare it to my pinky fingernail. It's pretty small. And the reason I've got a small one is because this will fit into a lot of different spaces. Now, the challenge with the small one is it can be a challenge not to leave chatter marks. So if you need to go for the bigger one, there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that you're going to have problems getting into super small spots with it. So the only part of this particular pattern that needs to be backgrounded would be the part right here in the middle of the leaves, but that's going to give us enough to be able to know whether or not, we know how to control it, and for me to be able to demonstrate it to you. So I'm going to background that little part right there, and then this will be mostly done. We might touch it up a little bit. Let's do the other side of the leaf here too. So one of the things that separates the amazing beveling of the masters from somebody who's new at this would be the depth and the crispness on the edges of the project they're working on. So if that's something that they pay attention to, that's definitely something you want to pay attention to. So that's why I go back over mine as many times as I need to make sure that my edges on my beveling are super crisp and they have as much depth as I can put in there without going crazy. You know, I want it to be reasonable. You want to see a little bit of an advanced technique? I'm going to go in here with this modeling tool and I'm going to push right against that edge right there. Let me see what I can do. Let me play for just a minute and see what I can come up with. What I'm doing is I'm taking the modeling tool and I'm pushing down and forward, and I'm getting kind of an undercut right here. Now, I'll tell you, this is a little bit more of an advanced technique, but I wanted to show you what can be done with some very simple tools. I'm being pretty aggressive with how much pressure I'm putting on the modeling tool right now. So if you're going to do this, practice it on something that you don't care about, because you don't want to be ruining a project when you trying a new technique. Now, part of the reason I'm able to use my modeling spoon to do this is because I've stropped the end of it and it's got a little bit of an edge on it. Not a whole lot, but just enough to allow me to create a slight cut. Now, one thing I'll point out is that there are tools out there that are designed to do this exact thing, and it will do it in a fraction of a time. They're called pedal lifters or undercuts. And, you can order those and we can do this exact thing in just a matter of minutes. But the point of this video was to show you what you can do with basic tools, kind of an entry-level kind of kit. And that's why I'm not using my pedal lifters and my undercuts and those kind of things right now, because I want to show you what you can do with just these 6 tools. So as you can see, you can do some amazing things with some very simple tools. If you want to see some more advanced techniques, click on one of these videos right here. In the meantime, go make something amazing.